Welcome to another episode of my story. We have today the founder of Women of the Valley. She is a mom, she's a wife, and she is what she calls a ballet rip instructor. That to me sounds very sore. Tammy, welcome to the couch of my story.
Thank you for having me.
What is ballet rip?
So ballet rip is a combination of Pilates and ballet that we obviously were taught, and there's an amazing combination of the two that you do to funky music, and so it's learning about using your body, just to have fun.
Can I do ballet rip?
Of course you can. Anyone, you don't even have to have dance experience and you can do ballet rip. We just laugh and we have lots of fun. So
do you do this online or in person classes?
It used to be in person, and then obviously with COVID, we've just kept it on Zoom because of the continuous change of rules and regulations. And so we do it on Zoom on a Monday and a Wednesday evening. So just come and join.
I want to.
Good.
If you invite me, I will take up that offer.
Awesome. I will.
Tammy, do you have ballet background experience or dance?
I did ballet probably up until about 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. And then I went into modern dancing, and I did modern dancing up until first year of working. And then I just found kind of working a full day and then having to quickly rush to the early evening class. It suddenly got a little bit much, but you miss it. I think when you've danced your whole life, you definitely miss that. So I was so exciting when I got given that opportunity to do that again and teach. So yeah.
So beside doing ballet rip, you also wear many other hats. You help manage a family business.
Yes.
You are a mom, so you do school runs.
Yes, yeah.
You're married to Darren.
That's correct. Yes.
And you are the founder of Women of the Valley.
Yes.
And then you also just shared with me that you're an author.
Yes. I call myself a busy fool, but a busy fool for the Lord, so not a fool.
So tell me about the book.
Yeah, so a good couple of years, God prompted me to just write my story down. One, that if anything, I could keep that as a record for future generations to come. My granddaughter, my great-granddaughter, whatever, and also just to inspire others and to see God's goodness in my life through all different trials that I have been. Yeah, that's happened in my life. So Brave, Straight in Your Crown was written and published, and yeah.
So hence your Instagram name. It's called Brave Tam.
Yes.
And I wondered what the Brave was.
Yes, so
for.
It just links in with my book, and that's when I kind of went onto Instagram and all of that. So yeah.
So Tammy, you're the first guest that we have that's going to talk to us about a special event that happened in your life. I'm not sure if that's for lack of a better word.
That's all right. Yes,
you're the mommy of 2 biological sons.
Yes, Joshua and Noah, yeah.
And then tell us about the beautiful adoption process that you journeyed with and how it all came about.
Perfect, yeah. So yes, I've got two boys. They're 14 and nearly 12, and we thought our little village, our little tribe was finished.
Yeah.
And when so Joshua's my oldest, and then Noah's my youngest. And when Noah was about 8, he just started saying these words to me, saying, "Mommy, I don't understand why we haven't fetched our sister." And I kind of was a bit taken back. I had a journey, which is obviously a whole other story, with postnatal depression after his birth. I had to have a hysterectomy at 32. And I thought that, well, that's it, and I'd always had a special thing. As you know, I love women, young ladies, everything aspiring to walk into their freedom with Christ. And so I love encouraging people. So a lot of my daughters, my friends' daughters, I kind of adopted them as my daughters and would, get to do the girly things with them. And I thought, you know what, that's fine. That's amazing.
Like dress up and
help
tea parties
and things like that. So I thought, you know what, Lord, it's fine. I'm a mom of boys. I'm a boy's mom. That's all amazing. And so we're into the things that boys bring along.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my Noah just kept saying, "Mommy, I don't understand why we haven't fetched our sister." And I eventually said to him, I was like, because I hadn't felt anything, and adoption had never necessarily been something that God had placed on my heart or my husband's heart. And I just said, you know what, Boykie, if you feel that strongly about it, you need to speak to Jesus about it. So he was 8 at the time and Josh was 10. And we would put him to bed, just myself, like in this time, I would put him to bed and he would say his prayers, thank you. And then at the end, like super fast, like, and Lord, speak to mommy and daddy about my sister. Amen. And I was like, okay, this is quite serious in his little heart, And anyway, it kept happening, and he would walk past me in the kitchen and he would just be like this. And I'm like, what is wrong, my babe? Like out of the blue timing. I don't understand why we haven't fetched our sister. And I walked past my husband the one evening and I said, babe, are you open to adoption? And I really thought because they were 8 and 10, it becomes a lot easier then. They can feed themselves, not having nappies and the full of that. And I said, babe, are you open to adoption? And he said, yeah, I am. And I was like, wow. So I just kept quiet and I walked and I carried on with, I think I was getting ready to get into bed. I was like, Lord, why are you shouting through Noah? Like, what is going on? And I just felt him drop into my heart, like, because he's the least likely out of your 2 boys that you would think I would speak to you about this. When Josh was young, he understood so many things of like that adults don't even understand about the gospel. And here Noah was, 8 and had this little stirring in his heart. And I closed my eyes for that moment and I instantly saw a picture of a little African girl. And I was like, Lord, I don't know what's going on, but, here we go kind of thing. And so that's the beginning of our story.
And continue, tell us.
So pretty much what happened was I eventually then started saying to my husband, Darren, I was like, this is what's happening with Noah. And we went into Toys R Us and I felt God also say to me, you know what, I'm working with Darren separately. Because often I think God reveals things to us. Yes. And it's something I've also had to learn in seasons with other things that God reveals to us. And maybe our spouse or our business partner or friend or anything like that, he's still having to work through in their own timing and in their own way. Because obviously God speaks so differently to each of us. And so I was in Toys R Us getting a birthday present with Noah. And he comes with one of these big, luminous pink flamingos. And I'm like, boy, I am so not buying that, And he's like, it's not for me. And I'm like, well, who's it for? And he goes like, we need to buy this for my sister. And it was in this one moment where I was like, put it in the trolley. And I was like, but you have to explain to Dad. Well, we've got a big pink flamingo. And I remember my husband, we were walking down the passage and there's Noah like carrying this big, and he's like, what is that for? And he's like, this is for my sister, the one you need to still speak to God about, at 8. And so it continued. And so pretty much for the rest of the year, I didn't ever want it to be that if we went through with the process and whatever. I mean, you hear nightmare stories and stuff, and I want to just tell you the beautiful story of what our story is like. But I never ever wanted it to become like something that would cause like I was forced into this or this wasn't, if I'm really being real. And so that's why I just kept quiet and allowed God to do it. And in that December, end of November, I was wrapping some presents and I'd bought 3 little gowns for my 2 nieces and I'd loved the little prints. I thought, I'll just keep one just in case. Yeah. And I wrapped the 2 and I literally threw the one gown to Darren and I said, this is what I bought for the girls. And I said, this is an extra one. And he grabbed it and he held, and I remember looking at him and he held it and he went, for my daughter. And I did the ugly cry. I mean, I've got the mic, so I won't do it, but he pulled my top and I was like, oh, and he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, did you hear what you just said? And in about December, we were outside and we just built a little braai room and I said, and he looked at me, he says, I know. And that's how our story started.
Tam, and then also I took something from your Instagram where you saw something on the cover of Joy magazine that just confirmed the adoptions. I want you to talk about that. And also your mother-in-law bringing a gift, which was another confirmation. Yeah. And so tell us about that.
So there's so many little things when I look back. So I'd even gone to, Kathy Moll had a women's like Saturday morning kind of thing. And I went up for prayer. I was struggling with my neck and I went up for prayer for healing. And this lady asked me, she's like, do you have children? And I said, well, I've got 2 boys. And she said, oh, okay, no, don't worry. I said, no, but why? Why did you say that? And she says, I just see a single child. And I wrote that down in the back of my Bible. And it's things like this. And I'll explain the purchase and that as well. But there were so many confirmations. When I look at that date, Mila would have been born 2 weeks before that when we got all the dates. So he is in the details before, and this was a good 2 years before
in the
even this.
detail.
He is
I love
in the details. And so what happened was, besides, and I'm going to say actually literally writing on the wall, because I also went to an event at our church at the time, and they played this one beautiful song called Dear Me. And part of it says, go and love like it's your own blood. And I remember getting stirred by that. And then it says at the end of the song, and it says, because Jesus loves me, this I know, and then it ends. And so the one day I was at my mom's house, and she gets the Joy magazine, and I happened to look down. It was like from 2013. And there's obviously like a sketch, beautiful drawing, portraying Jesus, putting his hand out like this, and he's holding a little African girl's hand with a little doll in her hand. And so the doll had beautiful little braided plaits, and the doll was pink. And I literally nearly fell off my chair because I like looked at it again, and I was like, you know us, how we need like, okay, Lord, so this is, if this
Another
is
sign.
really what you're saying, it's going to have some form of writing around the picture. Like, I mean, you must just go like, oh, okay, you know. And literally it said, because Jesus loves me, this I know. And it was when that first started, and I was like, okay, this is like the writing on the wall. And so my mom-in-law she and one of her friends went to Mauritius. They did a girls' trip, and she knows I've got the 2 boys. And she said, like, Tam, I've bought you a present. I don't know why I bought this for you, because I know how old you are and I know you've got boys. And next thing she gave me this gorgeous little doll. And the doll had the plaits, and it had a blue dress where when I looked at the picture, it had a pink dress on. And it was pretty much the same doll that this little girl, this little drawing of this little girl was holding in her hands. And even to the fact, now to jump ahead, when we were first matched with Mila, and you get a profile with all pictures of the child, and there's a picture of Mila looking up in her hands like this. I've actually got it in comparison on my Instagram thing, and the little girl and Mila look so similar. I'm like, how do you make that up? Like, it's bizarre. God's amazing.
So did that kind of seal the deal?
So that's
it was
what God
confirmed,
was doing all for
gave
me.
little confirmations,
huge,
and
yeah.
Darren had come to terms with this, that he was going to have this baby girl, and then the adoption process started.
Yes.
So won't you just tell our viewers your girl child that you got, and who she is, and what she's meant to you, and how did the boys accept?
So I think the process starts as if anyone's looking at going into adoption is, chat to people that maybe, you can always chat to me, but chat to people that maybe have gone through the process, have been through agencies or know of agencies to recommend to you. It's always a first stop to really go, and they often have information, day. So we did that first. We found an agency called Wandisa in Somerset West. It's Christian based. And so we knew from a friend who had adopted through them that they literally will prayerfully pray for the families to be connected to the right child. And that was important for us. We don't want to just have like, oh, okay, this little girl's available. Like, actually, we know who God wants for our family. And so we went there, and then that was, I think, around about the beginning of the year. And then after that, we had said, yes, we're keen to carry on with the process. So we signed up. And then it's a matter of going through a process. They're very thorough agencies. So we had to go to like a psychologist or whatever for a few sessions ourselves as a couple, make sure we are strong together as a couple. We had to read books, to do book reviews. Other friends who've gone through adoption, they didn't have to do half of the stuff we had to do. But I'm so grateful for that, because it really gives you insight. And so, then what happens is you get presented with a potential match. And you get a file, and that is that moment that you're waiting for. And even like you're on it, like even the things of like, I felt the one date, and I circled it in yellow, I put a little sun on our calendar, and I was like, something's happening on that date. And that was the day. When you get matched with a child, you go through their profile. You have to own their story. So as much as we're talking about our stories, because if a child is a result of a rape, if a child is a result of being abandoned, there are so many different things. Obviously, why this child has come into the system to be placed in a home. You have to, as a parent, own that story, because you're going to have to walk with that story. So you do get on the form, you do get different things that you have to fill in, what you as a parent are prepared to take on, because you have to walk that journey with a child.
Of course.
And so, we get matched, and then you have 3 days to go pray about it, obviously first thing, and I mean, we literally read her little profile, and we were like, and God had given me such a beautiful prophetic word over her life. And as we read her profile, it's like, it is literally hand in hand with what, it wasn't a thing of like, oh, we don't know, we're not too sure. It was like
instant.
Yes. And it was literally that Monday, when I looked at the calendar, was the date that I'd circled weeks ago that we could say yes. It was like stuff like, you just can't make it up. Like our journey, it's been like just such a perfect God steps in the whole process. And so going back to your question with how the boys handle it, we obviously, kept them involved with everything, all the process, made them very excited. But the reality also was my eldest son also just said, I could see that there wasn't, something, and I was having a bath one evening and I felt God revealed to me, he doesn't feel part of the process. And so I went to him in his bedroom and I said, babe, are you excited about it? He said, I am, mommy. And I said, but what? And I said, I know, because God's told me. God spoke to Noah about it, our son. And you're not maybe feeling like you fit in the puzzle piece. And he just looked at me and he said, yes, mommy. And I said, you know what God's told me in the bath? And I gave him a word that God specifically, I said, you have to start praying for your sister. This was before we were matched. I said, your job as the older brother is to start praying for her while we wait for her to be matched. And it was like that puzzle piece of what my role is in her little life in this journey just all fitted. And it's been incredible to watch my boys that literally from day one, and I mean, we come with like, oh, she's just amazing. But we have she's nearly 4. So we have the sassness of a nearly 4. And she'll wake up and she'll look at her brother and say, oh, your breath stinks. You know what? You're so smelly. And these poor oaks, they like, look at her. And I mean, Josh is 14. Noe's nearly 12. And you would think from these pre-teenagers, you would either get just like, oh my gosh, it could be a nightmare.
Yes.
And they're just like, oh, well, I love you anyway. And your breast stinks too. It's so, it's almost like the boys just say, like, mommy, we can't imagine our life without her. She is just so part of our family. And so I've been very intentional as a mom to make sure that I've kept the individual, like, because I date my boys, I take them on a little date. So we have that one-on-one time. And I've been very intentional through the whole process. My hubby and me have been to check in and say, are you good? Are you fine?
Yes.
And my mom even had to talk to them the other day separately, like, how's it going? And they're like, your nanny, we love her so much. Like, we can't imagine our life without her.
And how long has it been, Tam, that you have her?
So Mila joined us, she was 2 years, 4 months. So anything over 12 months is considered an older child. And so we had the feeling of like 3 or 4. And then we kind of thought, oh, maybe we need to make that a little bit younger. So we said anything from 2 to 4 and in age. And so she joined us. We had been matched with her in the November, but because of December and a lot of, I'm just trying to think, no, COVID, what hadn't happened yet, but with government departments
and holidays,
closing and holidays. And also just not wanting to we were going away for 2 weeks already. And we just said, you know what, we've got that, because we were matched in November. And they actually said it's actually easier just rather getting into the new year and then placing her with you at the end of sometime in Jan or going into February. It just keeps that Christmas thing. So she came from a beautiful, beautiful home called Acres of Love. They're also on Instagram. You can find them. And they are just an incredible God heart beating place where she's been in a family, like a home environment. And they love Jesus. They love God. And so she's had that foundation from the beginning. And so she joined us 6 weeks before lockdown. And when she came, we went to Joburg to fetch her. And we spent a few days up there. And she was 2 years, 4 months when she came to us. And then you have to keep your world very small for those at least 6 weeks, because she's needing to learn that you are my mom, you are my dad.
A bonding time.
And so even like with my folks or Darren's mom, it was very like we had to wait like a little bit of time and stuff before we slowly started introducing them.
Another new face and another person.
And so we did that for 6 weeks, and literally the weekend before lockdown, we had literally started venturing out, went to a friend's house, and we're like learning our new way of, I love it, like my way of looking at it is like we learn to dance together. We're having to learn how to dance.
Yes.
Because you know what? Sometimes you step on each other's toes, and sometimes it's hard and you want to give up and you don't. But you know that beautiful dance throughout life is it's an effort that you have to do, and you've got to support your partner and love them. And so we were still learning to dance, and then boom, we went into lockdown.
Which was probably the best thing to happen for the family.
Exactly. My husband travels normally quite a lot, and in Joburg and back. And it's been a season that, yes, COVID's been horrendous, and it's taken so much from people, and it's, I think, just caused us to really reevaluate life. Yet it's the year my daughter was brought into our family, and it's also just allowed that incredible rock solid foundation of bonding.
Yes.
So yeah.
Tam, and as we wrap up, you tell a nice story of when the two of you are lying facing each other, and you wanted to say to her, "You're beautiful," but she says it before you could say to her. She says, "Mommy, you're beautiful," and you said, "Hey, I wanted to say that to you."
Yeah.
That moment.
Yes. You know, I think with adoption, you have to, as I say, take each day as it comes. It's not, and I've been quite real on my posts. If you go back and look at the beginning, there are times when, you know, when she would arrive in our home and there would be tears and saying, "This isn't my home," and we've had to go through every emotion. And then there have been times where you hear her call Darren Papa for the first time, and it's been that thing of learning that even though we are obviously different, being an African child into a white family, we call it chocolate and vanilla, and then the caramel people as well. And I love the little story just before, obviously, I know you're ending. My friends also adopted 2 children. I hope I get it right. But her little son went up to Dad and said, "But Dad, I'm chocolate and you vanilla." And my friend's hubby went to the fridge and there was a top deck chocolate. He said, "Just hold on, Boykie." And he broke it off and he said, "Let's just have it." And he goes, "How was it?" He goes, "Oh, it was so good." And he looked at his dad and he says, "We're good, Dad, with the top deck chocolate." And so being that, obviously we have to be intentional. You know, I've had to learn, God's given me incredible people to come into my journey where I can ask the questions that I need to know. Need to know answers without being judged, you know, and God has just done everything like that. And so with having those little moments of like, and she says, "I love you, know, you're so beautiful, I love you," whatever. It's just, I don't take any of those moments for granted. And even like we have the sassy days, which I go like, that's a normal 4-year-old. It's got nothing to do with anything. But like even this morning, I was getting ready. She came through to my bedroom and I was like, "Baby," I said, "I think you've grown last night." "Why?" I said, "Because you look so tall." And she smiles and I said, "Babe, you know what?" I said, "I love you." And she goes, "I love you." She says, "You're so magical, Mom." And I just go like, she is like, we call her Mrs. President because she's got like wise years beyond her like thing.
And fully in charge in the house.
Oh my word. And she just says these things and we just like, what? You know, like amazing. And so we know God's got an incredible plan and a purpose for her. And through those moments of tears, through the moments of celebration, of laughter, lots of laughter, oh my goodness.
Lots of dancing.
Lots of dancing. God has just allowed me just to have like, my own beautiful little girl to do life with, and also just what that brings as having a daughter. But also I think the biggest thing is having a calling on her life where the devil came to try and rob and destroy. And the calling that is over her life is just incredible, what we felt God reveal over her. And to kind of think that we have a small part in playing with that, to allow her to walk into the kingdom, allow her to step into that authority God's given her. I'm humbled and honored by that fact that God would choose our family to have her as our baby.
Tam, thank you for sharing your story.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for being so vulnerable, and thank you for, on a public platform, sharing this beautiful story of adoption with your daughter called Mila.
Pleasure.
If you enjoyed this episode, won't you please like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the set of My Story.